The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Welcome, folks, to the beginning of a wonderful project. John Ventresco, myself, and the Swiss Park Memorial Committee is about to start building a brand new park in Easton. And it's in Furnace Village, which for many of us is on the road to Target at the junction of Foundry Street and Pequannock Street, where they're putting in those new lights. We're hoping to break ground sometime in November. And ECAT has agreed to follow the building of the park from beginning to end. It's the first time that we've built a major park in about a decade, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the process really goes. So we're here today to sort of introduce the project. I'm going to give you a little bit of the historical background, as you might imagine, and that goes back to the fact that back in 1918, we had a terrible pandemic with the Spanish flu, as it's even the scientists call it, the Spanish flu, even though it has nothing to do with Spain. During that time, Easton was as hard hit, perhaps even more hard hit than they were during the COVID thing. So we got the idea that we should take this park, which is already dedicated to a man named Lawrence Swift, who died treating our soldiers in a military hospital in Texas during the flu epidemic. And there's also a second first responder, Minnie Nystrom, basically a brand new nurse in her 20s, who died in Rhode Island, also taking care of people. I'm not going to hit you with a million statistics today, but one of the doctors in town started off treating, the normal 3 or 4 people a day. It got up to 60 people a day, then 130 people a day, and it finally peaked out at over 230 people a day that were being taken care of by just one of the doctors in town. It was a disaster. Well, back in 1974, the Historical Commission commemorated the fact that back 40 years before, the park was dedicated by Mr. Swift's private Swiss family as a park to him. We put a marker there, and that's kind of the way things have been since. But with the COVID epidemic, we got the idea that it might be time to honor our first responders from both the 1918 epidemic and also from the COVID epidemic. What's a first responder? It's hard to define. Obviously, it's medical and public safety people. Many of us feel it's also the folks that kept the supermarkets open 7 days a week during the COVID crisis. And we're convinced that we should have a park in their honor. Our committee went this past annual town meeting and actually got the town to give us a generous sum of money with the stipulation that we would also fundraise to finish up some of the beautification part of the park. And that's kind of the stage that the committee's at right now, where we're fundraising to plant the trees, put a memorial statue in, et cetera, et cetera. But for the most part, the infrastructure is all ready to go. So that's what we're going to be following along. And the details of that process is above my pay grade. So I'm going to turn to Stephanie Danielson over here, who is the town planner. And she's been instrumental in helping us get funding, handling the bid process. And she'll tell you a little bit about that before my friend John Ventresco kind of tells you why this is important.
So thank you, Ed, for the introduction. Right now at this point, so as Ed mentioned, back in May, we went to town meeting and requested CPA funds for the project. Almost $700,000 was appropriated to move the project forward. And as Ed mentioned, with the stipulation that the remaining funds needed to complete the project would be raised through fundraising efforts, and including any grants that might be available. So Ed and John have kicked off the fundraising effort. There is a web page on the town website that links to that effort, and that's moving forward. And a couple of weeks ago, we received confirmation that we are going to receive a $100,000 grant from the state. It's called the Park Grant, Park Acquisition and Recreation Program. And that will help, again, continue to move the project forward. So that's what I have on that front. We're very excited about that.
So how does a park get built? What's the process there?
So the process for a community, once you have the funding in place and you know you can move forward, we need to go out and seek bids for contractors that are actually going to do the work. We've received proposals and responses for the construction, and we're in the process of checking the references for the contractors, and then we will be awarding a contract. We'll be breaking ground. We expect to do that early November, and the work will proceed through the winter as long as the weather holds, and then continue in the spring until the park is completed.
Very good. One of the things that John and I and our committee spent a lot of time on is actually cutting the costs, deciding what kind of substrate we should put on the pathways, whether we should have a lot of lights or just a few lights. And we were able to save the town about $250,000 off of our initial planning. So a lot of work has gone into this. Basically, what we're trying to do is show some of the historical importance of the area. You may all know that it's called Furnace Village because people made cannons and cannonballs for the Revolutionary War. So we're going to have some of the old stone walls put back up there, and have some a historical timeline, as well as honoring the first responders. John, you're much more eloquent at that than I am. So.
I'm not sure about that, but I'll give it my best try, Ed. So thank you, Ed, for explaining that, and thank you, Stephanie. Just a little bit of history of how we got here. About 3 years ago, we were approached by Stephanie, our town planner, Connor Reed, our town administrator, and the Board of Selectmen, if Ed and I would co-chair this, to me, a very important project. Exciting project, because I feel this end of our community has kind of been forgotten for a couple of reasons. First, historically, because it's of great national historic interest, as Ed had talked about briefly. It's part of our mission also, the master plan in the town of Easton, to put in pocket parks. We're so rich in Easton with parks. We're so fortunate. But we don't have neighborhood parks, and neighborhood and these pocket parks are designed so we can bring small neighborhoods together. And when, again, our town employees, our town government had approached us to do something that would really respect what our first responders had gone through, just 4 years ago now, and combine it with the 1918 pandemic. And then Ed had brought up the idea also, and I 100% agreed, that why can't we tie in also some of the history in that area that, again, most people drive by and zip by, and they don't even realize that the cannons were made for the American Revolution, as Ed had talked about. So we didn't want to do this with the intention of just putting, for lack of a better word, a grave marker on it and a few words and a park bench. We wanted to do something that would truly respect what our first responders did to keep us afloat during a very difficult time in our history. And again, to combine that with the 1918 pandemic. We spent quite a bit of time researching, and so far, Ed and I have only been able to find 2 other like this in the country. One was a project done by a Boy Scout troop, and the other one was done on a Jewish cemetery. And we looked into that, and they looked great, and we kind of got some ideas of what we should go forward. And nothing else we could find on the COVID of 2020. We found lots of memorials for 9/11 and first responders, but nothing of this caliber. And again, paying extreme attention and respect to what responders did to keep us alive and moving through it. So we're again excited, and I wanted to make it clear also that the funds being raised, CPC, our Community Preservation Committee, awarded us $697,000, and we got a grant for $100,000, and then the remainder is being solicited through our community, which has been extremely responsive to that and excited and think it's a great idea. And we're still moving forward, and we're pretty close to meeting our goals, and that it will not be coming out of
General tax money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Out of general tax money.
Correct.
Yes.
And that, again, we're excited to...
Could I add
Go ahead.
couple of thoughts? First, I really want to give credit where credit's due. This idea started with Ed. Ed thought this would be a good idea, approached me, and I talked with Connor Reed, and Connor thought the town administrator thought it would be a wonderful idea, and tying it to the tricentennial would be a great idea. And so part of the process, when Ed, you asked about this, I thought you meant we're referring to the construction, but really a big part of the process was the formation of the committee and seeking input from the committee on what this park should look like, what the importance of it should be, how we convey and inform the public, both on the impacts of the 2 pandemics, as well as the importance of the history in the Furnace Village, which is where this is located. The town's invested a lot in that area over the year to revitalize it through infrastructure improvements that are still ongoing, and through policies that encourage new development in the area. We've seen a lot of improvements. The old foundry site is being redeveloped, and this park will be not only a place where people can go and contemplate the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic had on them, but also looking at the history and enjoying what's going on in that neighborhood.
Yeah, we should say that the zoning for Furnace Village has worked out really well. The idea was to intensify the use while maintaining the historical character, and the buildings that have gone in so far have been beautiful. Now, John pointed out that we've raised a substantial amount of money from the generous donors, but there's still a way that you all could get involved as well. We have a paver program. The central focus of the park is going to be a circle similar to the one that we have at our World War II, Vietnam, and Korea Memorial in Northeastern, where you can buy a paver to honor somebody, either a first responder, a family member. It doesn't necessarily have to be connected to COVID or 1918. I'm old enough to have parents that were able to survive the 1918 flu epidemic, so I bought a paver for them. But the process is being made easy for people that have some tech savvy. Could somebody explain that? Because I have no tech savvy.
The committee has produced cards, and they have a barcode, a QR code. It's called a QR code, and you can click on that, and that will bring you to the Swifts Park committee page. you can learn more about the park. You can see renderings of what the new park is going to look like, and there is a donate button there.
So you can scan that with your phone or your iPad and just follow right along with the procedures. So that's excellent. Well, keep an eye on this space, folks. There'll be more, and you can follow along as this beautiful new park is being constructed as a tricentennial present to the town. Thank you very much.
Oh, Ed, I'm sorry. I just wanted to do something very quickly also. In long-term goals, probably within the next 8-9 years, there's going to be sidewalks put in on both sides, and we're going to be tying in Avalon all the way towards Five Corners. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's going to even enhance that whole idea. When I started talking about our Easton's master plan and pocket parks and bringing that whole neighborhoods together, and the importance of, and sometimes you don't have to just go into a pocket park. All you have to do is drive by and see something, which will be our center sculpture, to remind you of something that went on that was devastating, and at the same time rewarding in the fact that we have these first responders and they can do what they did, again, during a difficult time. So with that said, and I'd also like to thank our committee that has also been instrumental in their ideas and helping us implement this project to this point.
Very good. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you very much.